guys, let's talk about books. Let's talk about 5 books that I read recently. And actually these were recently because I finished the last book in this pile last night at about 10 p.m. First one here is Kat Jarman's The Bone Chest, Unlocking the Secrets of the Anglo-Saxons. This was published in 2023. The call number is at 942.01, which is the history of Anglo-Saxons in England between BCE 55 and CE 1066. You might recognise 1066 as the year of the invasion of England. So the conceit of this book is that there are chests filled with bones in Winchester Cathedral. Yeah, Winchester Cathedral. And during the Civil War in 1642, this is not a period of England that I'm very familiar with, the parliamentarian forces stormed Winchester Cathedral and destroyed some of these chests of bones. And so the remaining bones that weren't shattered were compiled into the remaining chests. So there's only 6 chests left. And Kat Jarman goes through these chests based on the names on the chests and who is said to be in those chests, investigating the physical bones, what info you can get from them, and then also a bit of history about who these people are who are named on the chests. Is it plausible that they could be in the chests? What they did, how they fit into England, how they fit into England's history. One thing I would have really enjoyed about this book would be a royal family tree because I got a bit confused at some points about who was who and how they were related. And of course, in dynasties of families, you have a lot of similar names or the same name in a different generation. And it just got all a bit confused in my head. I would have liked a family tree in here, but Wikipedia did the job, no problem. This was really interesting, and like I said, it's not a period of English history that I know much about. It is mainly England that we're talking about here. I learned things about English history. I learned things about radiocarbon dating that I didn't know. I learned things about just the way archaeology is done in general. And I learned things about Winchester Cathedral. All in all, I had a great time. This cover, by the way, it's supposed to be representative of the stained glass at Winchester Cathedral where it was smashed by the parliamentarians and then stitched back together. It's a memorial to the wreckage that happened at that time. Anyway, if you are interested in that, highly recommend. Very readable. And Kat Jarman has another one which is called The River Kings, History of the Vikings, I'm pretty sure. It's really nice to read a readable pop history, which obviously this is. It's not an academic work published at an exorbitant cost, but it's still super interesting, super readable, super knowledgeable. We love that. Then I read the next installment of The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. It was translated by David French. The original came out in 1997, but the English edition was in 2016. Yes, it has the fake Netflix sticker. No, I do not care. This is technically book 4 in the Witcher series, it says there, but before the novels there are 2 short story collections, so I call this book 6, which means that I have 2 books to go from my shelf, and then another one has been announced, so potentially 3 books left of The Witcher. In this one we have Ciri, who was running around with bandits. She's been captured, and the consequences of being caught after having been a bandit but also being a princess who is a useful political pawn in the war that is happening around them all. And then we have Geralt, who is looking for Ciri but keeps getting side quests that take his attention. So in the beginning I was a bit like, oh really, like Ciri and the bandits are not my favourite storyline that is happening in here. And then Geralt doing the other things that he's doing. He's trying to get to Ciri, but all these other more important things crop up. The previous book to this one was Geralt's struggle with being a hero, an archetypal hero, and what does that mean, and what does that mean for his quest to find Ciri, because he thinks of Ciri as a daughter and she's missing and he needs to find her. But all these things that cause him to be a hero in the typical sense keep cropping up. And then in this one, there's a scene about halfway through where Geralt has to admit to himself and to other people that perhaps he is no longer, in fact, a witcher at all. Like, he's not a mercenary killing monsters to earn his living. He is a guy who's saving people and killing bandits and ostensibly on this quest to find his daughter, but not really doing that. And that was interesting. That's a fantastic character arc. I was definitely thinking the whole way, what happened to the monster killing? And that is what happened to the monster killing. So I love when I'm having those thoughts and then the author addresses those thoughts, because it means I was being led along the plot path and picking up what the author's putting down. But then also the author's like, yes, that is actually what is happening here. This is the theme of the story. I like that. Overall, not my favourite installment, although I did enjoy what was happening. And then right at the end is a bit of Yennefer, who is the third main character of this books and TV show, and a bit about what is happening to her in the background. She's not as important. Important's not the word I want here. She's not as dominant in the storyline, but she is doing her sorcerer things in other places to find Ciri, because she thinks of Ciri as her daughter. And maybe it will all converge back in the next one. The Tower of the Swallow is reference to something that happens at the very end, where there is a tower used to be a tower with a portal in it called Tor Siriel. I don't know how they pronounce that. The Tower of the Swallow. Ciri's name in Elvish is Swallow. And so she's going to find this portal tower, which is in ruins. Dun, dun, dun. And she's still being chased. Still having fun in that world. I love the writing style, and I'm at the point where I don't want these stories to end, so I'm reluctant to read the books because I don't want to know what happens. I don't want to know what bad things happen, and I don't want the story to be finished. Next up was on my Kindle, and that was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This was published in 2014. Apparently it was kickstarted, so that's interesting. This is the story of a crew of people who work on a spaceship whose job is to build kind of wormholes, but tunnels between two pieces of space so that you can fast travel between long distances. And they are contracted to head out to the small angry planet and make a tunnel back to more populated space. The small angry planet is a new member of the Galactic Commons, it's called, like the EU of space. And so the stories are of the crew members, their life, what happens, and a bit unfolding of their backgrounds. Starts out with Rosemary, who comes to the crew. She's new, she's never been on a spaceship like this before. She's run away from home essentially. And it's all very dramatic. She's changed her ID and she's run away and she hopes nobody catches her. But then nothing comes of it. And that's basically the whole story. There are stakes here and the stakes are really high for the characters, but there's no drama behind it. So you never feel until the very end that anything ongoing negative is going to happen. There's a guy who's dating an alien, and the alien's race is like the majority of the crew are human, but not all of them. The race of his girlfriend would frown upon her having a relationship with a human. So the stakes are high there in that they don't want to be found out. But anytime they come in contact with each other, it all works out. There's a guy who turns out not to be, he thought he was human and he's not, and the stakes are really high for him. But the drama is pretty chill and everything works out. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost cozy, and Becky Chambers wrote the Monk and Robot series, which is super cozy. So I guess that's just the vibe of what they write. But I just was underwhelmed in the end. It was fine, and actually it was the kind of book where I would look up and it would be half an hour past lights out and I should be asleep, but I was just reading and reading and reading. because it felt like a book that I could pick up and put down, and it didn't matter that I was in the middle of a chapter. I didn't have to take a minute to immerse myself or pull myself back out. It just was. This is the first book in this series. There are 4 of them, called The Wayfarers, which is the name of the ship. This is the only one I have, and I won't pick up the rest unless I come across them in secondhand or they're cheap on the Kindle or something, because I'm not that invested in the crew. But the story is about the crew and the made family, the found family of the crew. So if that's your vibe, highly recommend, but it's not what I'm looking for right now. I don't even know where to start with this next one. It is The Extinction of Irena Ray by Jennifer Croft. This was published in 2024, like 3 or 4 weeks ago at this point. I picked it up straight away. I was so excited to read it. Jennifer Croft is the translator of Olga Tokarczuk's Flight, which won the International Man Booker Prize. Croft herself's first book, which was autofiction, a finalist for the Women's Prize in 2022, I think. I don't know. I don't follow the Women's Prize that closely. Anyway, this is her first fiction novel, and where do we even begin? It is the story of 8 translators who arrive at the house of a Polish author in order to translate her newest work, her magnum opus called Grey Eminence. Polish author is Irena Ray. And this book is written by one of the translators in this group. They all refer to each other by their language. So Amelia, who writes this book, is Spanish to everybody else. She's from Argentina. And the preface at the beginning of this book says that Amelia wrote the book in Spanish, but it's been translated to English by another one of the translators who was here in Poland, and so is also a character in the story, but she's not the author of the story. She doesn't get a say in what happens in this tale, but she's translating it, and that's English. Her real name's Alexis. So we've got Amelia telling the story of what happens when they all go to Poland to translate this book, and she hates Alexis with a passion, and so Alexis starts commenting on the story in translator footnotes, which is excellent. The conversation between the story and the footnotes is where this book really shone for me. So they turn up to Poland to translate this magnum opus, and Irena Grey is acting really weirdly, completely out of character from all the other times that they have been there to translate her books. And then she disappears. And so the translators don't know what to do without Irena. They all respect her, but Amelia, who wrote the book, reveres her, treats her almost as a saint. Like, it feels like hagiography, the way that she writes about Irena. They all refer to her as our author with capitals. They don't know what to do without her, and Amelia in particular, who reveres this woman and thinks that she can do literally no wrong, is lost without her. So they do things like build a shrine to her in the lounge room, and they don't really try and look for her at all. They try translating her book in order to find clues about where she might have gone. Her husband has also disappeared. Weird things are happening. It's a mystery in what happened to Irena Ray, but it's also what do translators do? How do they affect the text that they translate? Is it a straight translation? Is it, which is not possible, is it taking the author's words and intent and translating that to their language? Is it editing the text to make it better? Is it a conversation between the author and the translator, or is it a conversation between the text and the translator and the audience? So there's lots to think about here, but then it's also a commentary on climate change and extinction, and you might gather from the title that Irena Ray doesn't survive. And in the preface, Alexis says that she's currently living in Mongolia, where there is no extradition treaty to Poland, or the United States. But also she comments on a lot of the plot points. One in particular, she's like, if this happened, obviously I would not participate. If this was real, she never outright says it didn't happen, but she's like, obviously I would not agree to these things if they happened. As it goes further along. And also as it goes further along, it becomes more surreal as Amelia realizes that Irena is not the person and the artist that she thought Irena was. Her whole life view comes crumbling down, and I really enjoyed it. There's a whole section in here with images. Let me find one where Amelia tries to contact Irena via Instagram. So you've got your Instagram picture and then the caption, which I thought was like really interesting. And also like the fungi is a big theme in the book as well. I've not done this justice at all, but it is an immense book. It's got a lot of things going on. It was a really great time and I really, really enjoyed it. And then finally, there's Rogue Protocol by Martha Wells. This is the third in the Murderbot Diaries series, published in 2018. Murderbot is science fiction's favourite AI. It is a cyborg. It's got organic parts and robot parts, and it used to be a security unit, a sec unit, in which it was basically a slave contracted out to humans to be security detail for them. But in this one, it has gone to investigate the company that was behind the bad stuff that happened in the first book. As it goes on living a non-sec unit life, it's discovering that maybe not all humans are bad. Maybe it's not a bad thing integrating with humans and other robots and making friendships and finding somebody worth protecting. And that is what happens here at the end. Murderbot finds info on the company that was responsible for the events of the first book and decides to go back to where it ran away from and take this info back to the person who released Murderbot from their contract and bought them as a person. Everyone loves Murderbot, and now I'm on the hype train too, and now I need to track down the rest of the books in this series because I don't have any more on my shelves yet. That is my thoughts for those 5 books. The Extinction of Irena Ray, I know I rambled a lot and I don't know if I actually said anything, is a chunky book full of things that definitely requires more than one read, and I really only just finished it a couple of days ago, so it's still all percolating in there. But I hope I gave the impression that it was worth your time if it sounds interesting to you, because I had so much fun. And I will see you to talk about books another time. Bye.